Hello everyone, I'm Tommy with Studio Sense and welcome to today's video. I hope everyone enjoyed yesterday's video, which is Keep 4 for Life, my designer cheapy edition. 4 fragrances, 1 per season. So hope you got some ideas out of that and maybe spark some conversation with you, your friends. And today is going to be very similar, except we're replacing the word designer and cheapy with niche. Because as you and I both know, you can't use the word cheapy with niche. That is one of the neat things about niche fragrances. Designer fragrances, if I could encapsulate a definition of what they are, is fragrances that are designed to be mass appealing and crowd pleasing. So a fragrance that is created to please the majority of people, whereas niche has more creative license to be unique. So niche is interested in being unique and not necessarily crowd pleasing or mass appealing. Are there crowd pleasing and mass appealing niche fragrances out there? Absolutely, absolutely. Parfums de Marly. However, today we're going to be talking about Keep 4 for Life, 1 per season of niche fragrances. So stay tuned because that's coming up next. Welcome back, guys. I grew up in a town that I'm right next door to, pretty much grew up in. It's called Jonesboro, Tennessee, the old spelling of O-U-G-H on the end, and is perhaps best known for what's called the Storytelling Festival. That's right, every year people from around the world gather and they sit on hay bales, they sit in tents and amphitheaters, and they sit and listen and some tell stories. But this house likes to tell stories not only in the titles of their fragrances, but also olfactory stories by the smell of the fragrance. Storytelling is an integral part of their presentation, and it is from the house of Miller Harris. The fragrance that I'm highlighting for spring comes from what's called the Forage collection, with titles such as Lost in the City, Hidden on the Rooftops, and this one is titled Wander Through the Park. Wander Through the Park is supposed to take you through a stroll in downtown London, where suddenly you're walking along this paved concrete path and you run into what are called stinging nettles. Now, nettles is a note that is used in this fragrance that gives you this pungent, not acrid, but very, very specific and recognizable fragrance of spring. It is a transformative time where seeds turn into buds, buds turn into plants, and it's a beautiful time of year, and I think this is a beautiful niche fragrance that represents this season aptly, and it's the one that I'm going to keep and hold on to. It's a very green composition, and it kind of takes some citrus. So you've got your grapefruit, you've got your violet leaf, and then you've got your galbanum, and then the nettles that make this a very, very green, very springy, like a perfect spring niche composition in my mind. And I can't help but think of Wander Through the Park when I think of spring. As with designer, when it comes to summer, one thing we think of is aquatic, because, you know, water parks, swimming pools. You know, do you remember going to the public pool when you were a kid? Or maybe you go now as an adult. Either way, it's great. You look forward to that high noon, that high heat, and an opportunity to get in the water. So for me, I think it would be appropriate to have kind of a mix of certain flavors and maybe something a little bit different. And my summer pick for niche fragrance comes from the house of Serge Lutens, and it's Fleur d'Oranger. Fleur d'Oranger is an eau de parfum. It is an amazing composition. One thing I love about niche fragrances is they pair different notes to create a composition that you might never pair. So when you think of orange blossom, you think of nectar, sweet, kind of bright, citrusy, but you don't think cumin. So you take something that is known for being bright, energetic, representative of summertime, and then you take something that is just a kind of a dirty spice like cumin. Makes you think of, you know, sweating. It is a brilliant masterstroke to bring these two notes together, because what do you do in the summertime in high heat? You sweat, right? Cumin is representative of that, but it makes that bright, citrusy, semi-sweet orange blossom note a little bit on the dirty side, and it is a perfect pairing. And if you wear this fragrance in high heat, I swear that you will thank me for making the recommendation, because it's unlike anything that you have in your collection. The Fleur d'Oranger is a brilliant composition, and it is my niche keep and pick for summer. Italy is a beautiful country that boasts wealth in not only land, but in a rich traditions. And that's what is represented by the niche fragrance that I am choosing for fall and autumn. And that is Xerjoff's Naxos 1861. Naxos 1861, or I'll just say Naxos, is an amazingly brilliant fragrance. It is one of my favorite, if not the favorite, tobacco-based fragrance that's out there that is niche. Now, a lot of times tobacco fragrances, they're a little bit heavy-handed on the tobacco note, so when you smell it, you're just like, okay, I get what you're saying. You're laying down, hey, this is tobacco, and everything else is kind of just like an adjunct or an aside. You don't really get to appreciate the composition because the tobacco is overselling itself. Naxos never oversells the tobacco. In fact, it's just a hint. Primarily what you're getting there is you're getting some incense, you're getting cinnamon, you're getting honey. So that sweet honey is playing the role of introduction for the tobacco note. And that's what I really like about Naxos. It is very soft, but when the dry down hit, that's when you're like, wow, this is a very potent, powerful fragrance. In longevity, I get a good 10 to 12 hours out of this. Projection is relatively subtle. Most honey and tobacco fragrances are relatively subtle, but that's a good thing. It's not overpowering. Anyone within a 3-foot radius is going to smell Naxos 1861. It's probably my most complimented niche fragrance, and that's why it's my pick for fall and autumn. A lot of really brilliant autumnal notes in this fragrance. Naxos 1861 is also a unisex fragrance. On to our last and final season, and that is winter. Just another word or two about niche fragrances. Again, I mentioned that one of the things I really enjoy about niche fragrances is that they push the boundaries of what's acceptable in terms of the notes that come together. You know how with certain flavors, when you were growing up, you didn't know what you liked until you made a mistake? There wasn't any thought process involved in whether these things should belong together. It's like peanut butter and jelly. You just do it. And some things you put together, like bananas and mayonnaise or whatever the case may be, you discovered were, wow, this is an amazing composition. That is a lot of times what I think niche fragrances are like, and this particular fragrance that is best representing winter for me and that I want to keep is very representative of that. You know how you're supposed to roast a marshmallow, but it always caught on fire and you're like, oh no. And then your brother, who's purposefully sticking his in the fire to specifically burn it because he likes that blackened skin that he could just pull off, and then it's gooey on the inside, but he still eats that blackened, that burnt skin because there's something burnt, and then your mother's complaining, that's carcinogenous, it's gonna get you sick, you're gonna have cancer, or whatever. That's the best way to discover things in my book, and maybe that's how the perfumer discovered this particular fragrance, because it's kind of got a burnt vanilla fragrance about it that is extremely unique. In fact, just saying burnt vanilla is not at all the best adjectives to use in describing this, but it's a start, it's a beginning. And that is from the house of Homage, and that is Interlude Man. Whatever the inspiration was behind this beautiful scent, it was a brilliant, brilliant combination of notes. So if you like leather and if you like gourmand fragrances, this is kind of like a combination of that. So you've got this dark, this rich, very rich kind of smoky leather, like a deep, dark, rich leather, and then you combine it with a deep, dark, rich, maybe not so dark, vanilla. So you got smoky, leather, vanilla together, and then you take that and you let it sit on a fire until it slightly starts to burn, and then you take it off. That's Interlude Man. Because on the one hand, it's like very, very creamy, very luxurious, but then on the other hand, it's like a slightly overdone. Should have been pulled off a little while ago. But somehow, the combination of those two things, it's almost like salt and sweet, like chocolate-covered bacon. Sounds crazy. Some people swear by the combination of that sweet and that salt. This is a combination that actually does work, at least for my nose. I think it's brilliant. And so that is going to be my pick for winter. Homage Interlude Man. Well, that's it, guys, for my niche, keeping 1 per season for niche fragrances. The thing about niche fragrances, they are on the high side in terms of economy, so you can find all of these. I've done a little bit of research, some due diligence to try to find you websites that have the best, and discounters that have the best price on these fragrances. But if you can find one that is better, by all means, make use of it. So niche fragrances are a little bit on the higher side. You have to kind of save up a little bit of money unless you have a ton of disposable income. I can assure you, I do not. So take your time when looking and make sure you like something. Try a sample first before you actually blind buy. I would not blind buy a niche fragrance. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. As always, thank you so much for your support. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you next time. Hey everybody, it's Tommy with Studio Sense and Nico, joined today by my very special guest. Nico is a rambunctious little terrier pup. Say hi guys, hi guys. So we're getting ready to go on a walk, but I wanted to talk to you really briefly about niche or designer, which is best. I don't think it's almost like saying, is a Toyota better than a Honda? You're gonna have people out there that are gonna be definitively yes, and here's why. And then you're gonna have people that are like, well, they're both cars and they can get you where you wanna go. Niche and designer is very similar. However, there's gonna be obviously variations and variances in quality, right? And quality of juice is extremely important because that's what creates the longevity, right? And that's what creates the projection. And also it creates the blend balance. How well and how good a fragrance actually smells is due to the quality of juice, as well as other chemical properties like what it is and how it blends together and the synergistic effects, if there are any, and other interactions. So in my estimation, I think that niche is a wonderful, wonderful genre because it's something that isn't afraid to push the boundaries and use creative license to make new and wonderful things. And the best thing about designer is that it brings fragrances to your door that are very mass appealing and crowd pleasing and everybody likes. So when Acqua di Gio became the #1 men's smelling, Acqua di Gio, the #1 men's smelling fragrance, the #1 men's selling fragrance for men, it made me extremely happy because at the time I was wearing Acqua di Gio. That's what I wore full time. It was my signature fragrance. So there are benefits to niche. You know, you've got houses like, you've got Josh Myers, who is the creator and author of Imaginary Authors, and the wonderfully creative fragrance house with all these really neat ideas, bringing them to life through fragrance, through not only sense of sight, but olfactory. And you've got other houses that are just extremely creative, both in presentation and in the actual fragrance itself. So I don't really think it's a matter of one being better than the other. Hopefully they'll both continue to work really well together on into the foreseeable future. Thank you so much, guys, we're done. I know. Thank you so much, guys, for your time and for tuning in. Always appreciate your support. Nico does too. You guys have a great afternoon. It's Tommy and Nico with Studio Sense, and we'll see you tomorrow.